Welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. Thought I'd talk about my little Baby Pong machine here again. I've actually done a video before about this thing and how I built it, and I showed off the Pong game that's inside. But I wanted to actually talk about a different game that this thing comes bundled with, because it's got an interesting little story about how I never really check the variations of any of these games. I just play variation number 1 right out of the box. Now the reason I'm thinking about this Pong machine of mine is because At Games, the folks who make those flashback consoles for the Atari and Sega Genesis and all that stuff, have recently come out with a couple of different little consoles you can hook up to your high-def TV. Some of them look a lot like Genesis controllers. You can play Pac-Man on them, that kind of stuff. But there's also one that looks like the Atari paddle, and it actually plays wirelessly. And this thing, well, you know, this is the Atari paddle that it comes with for the At Games thing. You plug that with a little dongle into your TV set, and you can play on your high-def TV Pong and various other games that come bundled on it. And it's not getting great reviews, so I just thought, well, I'll pass because I've got this. I've got Baby Pong, which is really, really good, and it's an awesome not only recreation of Pong, as per my original video. I'll put a link down below to that original video if you're curious about this thing and how I built it. But in addition to Pong itself, there's some other games that come on this thing, and I'll just show you. That was the Player 2 paddle I just showed you. The main one, Player 1, is this thing here, which comes with a reset button, and with that and the dial, you can actually make selections of other games. So I'm just going to do that, primarily because there's one game that has kind of an interesting little thing to it. So if I hit the menu button, there we are. With this, you can actually make different selections, but what I want to do is go all the way to the left and go to choose a different game. There we go. I've kind of repositioned the camera so you can see that little TV inside there a bit better. Yeah, so this thing comes with various things like Warlords, Video Olympics, Night Driver, and there's that Pong game that we were just playing. There's also Warlords arcade version, which is really cool. Only playable with 2 people, of course, because you've only got these 2 paddles to mess around with. But what I wanted to show off was actually a variation that I didn't really know much about until someone on Atari Age talked about it. What it is down here. Now, I only ever really played Breakout when I had an Atari 2600 back in the day. I knew of Super Breakout, but I didn't really pay much attention to it because I thought, well, I've already got Breakout. I'm not forking over another pile of cash for basically the same game. But if we go into Super Breakout, and then we pull up the menu and we can choose different variations, you can see here. Now, this console is actually in color, but because I've only got Pong running on here, I've stuck with the black and white. I don't know if you can make out, there's different slight gradients in those boxes there showing the different variations. You got 1 player, 2 player, breakout, double, cavity, etc. The one that I'm interested to show you here is toward the bottom, Progress, which is number 7. Variation number 7. I'm actually going to bring that up by scrolling over to where the select screen is. You can see at the bottom there, as I roll the, as I'm doing this with the paddle, it's actually highlighting different things on that pseudo Atari 2600 at the bottom. And what I want to do is go, not to restart, but the one next to it, Game Variation. And I'm going to hit the button, and it's going to go up here to show that we can get to game number 7. Not 6, which has 2 players, but actually number 7, which is a 1 player. And then I'm going to roll over to restart the game and start up Progressive Super Breakout. This is a very cool version of Breakout that I didn't really know anything about until somebody in Atari Age was like, well, of course, everybody plays the progressive version of Super Breakout. And I was like, what? Yeah, Variation 7. What, you've never played that before? I'm like, no. So I just want to show that one off because it's, to me, one of those examples of a game that, unless somebody had told me, go deeper into the menu system and try out something different, I don't think I ever would have. And this is a really good version of Super Breakout. So here it is. It's pretty much the game that we all know. But as the ball goes up, it actually does this interesting how would I describe it? Kind of like typewriter paper being fed down toward you as the game goes, and it ramps up the difficulty quite interestingly. Let me show you the game. So this stuff we all know. And I know it doesn't sound like there's much happening in the sound effects department, but that's actually a weird quirk of Super Breakout. They actually made it... Oh wait, let's see if I can get it up there, and I'll talk about the sound in a second. Can we get it up there? Yeah. So now it's going to unlock a bunch of those, and when it reaches a certain point, you see, it kind of brought the whole level down again. Isn't that cool? And that really, like, it makes it so that as the game progresses, you're suddenly ramping up the difficulty a lot more. Because honestly, Super Breakout and Breakout itself they're kind of easy. And I mean, this is from a period where I guess they didn't really know what kind of difficulty level to make games for the home audience. So they kind of made them super easy, I got to admit. But this version, this Variation 7 with the progressive mode, is quite nice. It's a very good, I don't know, almost arcade-like level of difficulty, and it takes a fairly skilled player, which I don't think I am, because I'm not doing well here. It takes a fairly good player to get past all this, so I like that. And, yes. Oh, darn it. So yeah, that kind of feeding the paper down routine, highly recommended. If you've got Super Breakout and you've never tried Variation 7, definitely give it a try, because it really adds a different level of challenge and takes quite a bit of skill. And I like it. I'm very glad I discovered that. There's another very well-known Atari game. Oh, it's at the end of the game. The last ball. There's another very well-known Atari game that also has a similar story to this for me, where I will go into it in another video, but had I not... Well, I didn't play anything beyond Variation number 1 on the list, and it always seemed strange to me this feature that I thought was in this very well-known game wasn't there, and then many years later I discovered, oh yeah, it's one of the variations down the list. You obviously don't just stick with game number 1, do you? Well, I did. Now, before I go, one final thing about that sound not sounding all that great. There's something intentional about Super Breakout that I've learned, and it seems strange to me. There are variations in the sound. If I restart a new game here, let's just roll all the way to restart, we will have a different sound package. Listen to this. Like now it's playing little notes. And I will restart yet another game. Listen to this. Now I always thought to myself, is that a glitch? Is there something wrong with this particular copy of Super Breakout that comes on this little sort of Jack's Pacific plug and play? And I remember again, on Atari Age, somebody mentioned, hey, how come Super Breakout does this thing with all the different sound effects depending on when you start the game? It was apparently intentional, which I thought was kind of strange, but it gives this game some interesting quirks. It's not only got this neat progressive mode that makes for an interesting game, but it also has this strange sound box, sound collection difference depending on which game you start. So yeah, I just thought, you know, with people talking about the Boom package that came from At Games and how it's maybe not the greatest, that's at least what other reviewers have said, I just thought, no, I'm sticking with my Baby Pong and all of this great stuff. And now it's going to go crazy. So, I'll leave it there. Until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.